Where I opened my front door that morning, my mum was on her knees, crying, begging me to save her. After all these years of ignoring me, now she needed me. We used to look like the perfect American family from the outside. Big house in Oregon, white picket fence, family dinners on Sundays, and of course, my sister Lily, the star of every story. Growing up, I learned early that love in our house wasn't free. It had to be earned. And no matter what I did, I could never earn enough. I was the quiet one, the girl who stayed up late studying, who picked up extra shifts at the diner to help pay bills, who brought home straight A's and thought maybe, just maybe, this time they'd notice me. But they didn't. My parents only had eyes for Lily. She was the golden child, the beauty queen with shiny hair and a perfect smile. She won pageants, dated quarterbacks, made everyone laugh. She was everything they ever wanted. And I? I was the one standing at the edge of family photos, half cut out of the frame. I told myself to hang on, that one day they'd see me. I stayed. I listened. I played the role of the good daughter. Even when they forgot my birthday or dismissed my college acceptance letters as not a big deal, I kept hoping. Over time, the small cuts added up. The dismissive laughs, the quick change of subject when I tried to share my dreams, the way my mum would glance past me at the dinner table, asking Lily if she needed more gravy, ignoring my empty plate. Then, when I finally got a scholarship to a top business school in New York, I thought it was my moment. But they told me no, stay home, go to community college. Don't make Lily feel bad. I still remember that conversation like it happened yesterday. My dad's cold stare across the kitchen table, my mum's fake comforting tone as she listed all the reasons I wasn't ready for a big city. So I said okay. But inside something shifted forever. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just smiled. Because they had no idea I had already started packing, and they had no clue what I was about to do next. My parents had always been experts at pretending to be the loving family at Sunday church, the supportive parents at Lily's pageants, the successful couple at neighborhood barbecues. Behind closed doors, though, it was different. I remember the first time I realized how little they thought of me. It was senior year of high school. I had just been accepted to a competitive summer business program, something that could change my entire college trajectory. I came home, beaming, ready to share the news. My mum didn't even look up from her phone. My dad just nodded, asked if I could pick Lily up from cheer practice because they were busy. I brushed it off. After all, I was used to being the background noise. But slowly the small slights became sharper, more deliberate. By Thanksgiving, I offered to cook the turkey. My dad told me to stick to peeling potatoes because Lily's presentation was more important. When I finally did speak up about how I felt, my mum rolled her eyes and said, "You're so dramatic. Can't you just support your sister?" They gave Lily my old car as a surprise gift, even though I was the one who saved up for its repairs and insurance. I had been working 2 jobs that summer, living off canned soup, thinking I was investing in my future. Lily crashed it 2 weeks later, and my parents laughed it off, calling it a silly accident. They called me selfish when I tried to save money for my move to New York. They told me I was being cruel for wanting to leave Lily behind. I listened to their lectures, nodded politely, and cleaned the dishes after dinner, all while feeling the slow burn under my skin. When I finally left for New York under the guise of going to the local college dorms, they didn't even drive me to the bus station. My dad handed me an envelope with some cash and said, "Don't embarrass us." My mum gave me a half-hearted hug, told me to call Lily when you get there. That bus ride was the first time I tasted real freedom. But even in that freedom, the echoes of their words chased me. In New York, I shared a cramped room with 3 other girls, worked part-time at a bookstore, and studied until my eyes burned. Each month, I'd get a transfer from my dad, money he thought was paying for local community college tuition. I used it to buy cheap groceries, to keep the lights on when tips were low, to buy second-hand textbooks. While they thought I was stumbling along at some no-name college, I was graduating early at a top-tier university. I got internships at startups, networked at weekend events, took online courses at night to learn coding basics. Meanwhile, they kept up the charade, posting photos with Lily at brunch, bragging to the neighbours about her modelling gigs as if she were on the brink of superstardom. They never asked about me beyond the occasional text, "You good?" or "Send us your grades." When I landed my first job in marketing with a 6-figure salary, I didn't tell them. I moved into my own small apartment in Brooklyn, decorated it with thrift store finds and cheap plants that somehow kept dying on me. Every morning, I'd make myself black coffee and stare at the skyline, thinking about how far I had come and how they had no clue. Then, one morning, out of nowhere, my dad called. He never called me directly, so I let it go to voicemail. The message was short. "Lily's getting married. You need to come home." It wasn't a request. It was a demand. I listened to it 3 times, my hands trembling. After all these years, they didn't ask how I was. Didn't ask if I could make it, or if I even wanted to. They simply ordered me back like some forgotten piece of luggage. When I finally picked up the phone later that day, my dad's voice was sharp. "We want you here early to help set up. Lily needs you. Don't disappoint us." My mum chimed in on another call, her voice dripping with forced warmth. "It would mean so much to the family. We don't want the neighbours asking questions." There it was. The real reason. Image, appearances, the illusion of a perfect family for their friends and community. That night, I sat at my small kitchen table, staring at the white walls I still hadn't gotten around to decorating. The city noise buzzed softly outside, a comforting hum that reminded me I was free. I cried, not because I missed them, but because for a brief second I still wanted to be loved by them. Then I wiped my tears, stood up, and looked at myself in the mirror. "No more," I whispered. The next day, I transferred all their tuition money into a new savings account under my name. I gathered every email, every wire receipt, every message they had ever sent me about school payments. I started keeping detailed records, screenshots of bank statements, copies of old emails, all the evidence I had that I was no longer the weak, quiet daughter they thought I was. When my dad tried to threaten me later, said he'd stop paying my college bills if I didn't come, I almost laughed. He didn't know I'd been self-sufficient for years, paying my rent, my food, my life without them. I pretended to listen on the phone, gave small yes and okay responses. Meanwhile, I was drafting my resignation letter at the bookstore, ready to leave my side gig behind as my corporate job took off. They thought I was still their puppet, that I would jump at the snap of their fingers. I let them think it. I played the obedient daughter one last time, nodding along, acting unsure and scared. I wanted them to feel safe in their fantasy just a bit longer. They had no idea the girl they had ignored for so long was about to cut every string they ever held. He thought he broke me. What he didn't know was, I was just getting started. My plan wasn't complicated. It wasn't loud, but it was thorough. After that last phone call where my dad tried to threaten me about tuition money, I knew they had no idea who they were dealing with anymore. While they were busy planning Lily's picture-perfect wedding, I started quietly pulling every string I'd been holding on to. First, I stopped transferring any of the tuition money they had sent me to my living expenses. Instead, I moved it all into a dedicated account in my name only, money they thought they still controlled. I printed out every transfer slip, every bank record, every email my dad had ever sent demanding updates on my classes. Then, I called my scholarship office and asked for an official transcript with honours and early graduation noted in bold letters. I filed it away carefully. While they were mailing out fancy invitations, I updated my LinkedIn, my resume, my entire professional network. I made sure my new job, my new life, was out there for anyone to see, just not for them. And when the inevitable day came that they tried to cut me off, they'd realize I was already miles ahead. A week before the wedding, I sent my dad a short email. No explanation, no apology. Just one PDF attached, my diploma. A line at the end read, "Thank you for your support. I no longer need further assistance." The trap was set. I didn't hear anything for 2 days. Silence. Then my phone started buzzing with messages. My dad was furious. He accused me of betraying the family, embarrassing them. He said I had lied, shamed them in front of the whole town. My mum called next, voice trembling, her words jumping between pleading and scolding. Then came the real blow. Lily's fiancé turned out to be a scam artist. He had convinced my parents and even some extended family to invest nearly all their savings into a fake startup fund. They lost everything. The wedding was cancelled, their retirement funds evaporated, the house was on the market within a month, and they were forced to move into a tiny rental on the edge of town. For once, they had no backup plan, no golden child to parade around, no money left to keep up the facade. I watched it unfold from New York like I was watching a slow-motion train wreck, and while part of me wanted to feel bad, I didn't. Because every cruel comment, every time they called me selfish for wanting a life beyond their narrow little world, it had all led to this. When they realized they had no financial safety net left, they started calling me again. At first, it was my mum, tearful, soft, "We're family. Please come help." She left voicemails saying she missed me, that she regretted everything. Then my dad started in, but his tone was harsher, like he still believed he could order me back into their orbit. "You owe us. We raised you. We gave you everything." They showed up at my Brooklyn apartment one rainy afternoon unannounced. I opened the door, and there they were, drenched, exhausted, eyes hollow. My mum dropped to her knees right there in the hallway, sobbing, grabbing at my hand. My dad stood behind her, arms crossed, pretending he still had authority. I didn't invite them in. They started talking over each other, a chaotic mess of apologies, accusations, and desperate pleas for help. My mum kept saying, "We just want our daughter back," as if she had ever truly wanted me before. My dad switched tactics quickly, from shouting to bargaining. "You're successful now. You can help us get the house back. You can save the family name." I stood there silently, letting the rain soak into their clothes, letting them see that I was no longer the quiet girl peeling potatoes at Thanksgiving. Then, calmly, I said, "I'm not your daughter anymore. You made sure of that years ago." My mum's face collapsed completely, her sobs turning into dry, rasping gasps. My dad looked at me like he was seeing a stranger, and in that moment, he finally was. They tried one last play. Lily. A week later, she appeared at my door. She looked nothing like the flawless pageant princess she used to be. Her makeup was smeared, hair unwashed, voice trembling. She said she missed me, that she needed me, that she couldn't believe our parents turned on her when everything fell apart. I didn't offer her a seat. She stood there shivering as she told me they were blaming her for everything, for the lost money, the cancelled wedding, the ruined reputation. She said she didn't have anywhere else to go. When she finally stopped talking, I just nodded once. "You always thought you were better than me," I said softly. "Now you're here, asking me to fix it, but I don't owe you anything." She looked at me, eyes wide, as if she couldn't process that the invisible sister had become untouchable. I closed the door in her face. After that, I changed my locks, blocked every number, and warned my building's security not to let them in again. They lost their power over me that day, and I gained something far more important: my peace. I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it online. I didn't share receipts to humiliate them publicly. Instead, I walked into my next team meeting at work with my head high. I presented my latest campaign numbers, secured my promotion, and later that week signed a lease for a bigger apartment with a tiny rooftop garden. I started attending a pottery class on Saturdays. I took long walks along the East River on Sunday mornings. I learned to enjoy slow coffee, learnt to sleep through the night without checking my phone for another guilt-laden voicemail. My life felt quiet, but for the first time it was a good kind of quiet. Now I am free. Free from the constant need for approval, free from begging to be seen, free from the shallow performances of a family that never really loved me. They thought I was weak, that I'd always crawl back. But they were wrong, and they'd learned that too late. After I closed the door on my family for the last time, there was a strange silence that filled my apartment. It wasn't the tense, suffocating silence I used to feel at home growing up. The silence of unspoken judgments and unmet expectations. This was different. It felt like standing in an empty room after a long, loud party. Quiet. Echoing. Maybe a little sad at first, but filled with a strange sense of relief. I started rebuilding my life piece by piece, almost like putting together a jigsaw puzzle where I finally got to choose the picture on the box. The first thing I did was repaint my living room. I picked a soft sage green, a colour that felt warm and steady like a soft morning breeze. I replaced the second-hand sofa with a deep blue velvet one I had always wanted but never allowed myself to buy. I hung prints from local artists on the walls, pieces that made me smile when I passed them every day. I've planted a tiny herb garden on my balcony. At first, I killed almost everything, but I kept trying, and slowly mint and basil started to grow, bright and fragrant. A quiet sign that life can flourish even after years of neglect. I focused on my work with a renewed clarity. My days no longer started with anxious texts or ended with guilt-laden voicemails. Instead, I began each morning with strong coffee and a short run through the park near my apartment. I set my own pace, defined my own milestones. At the office, I stepped confidently into meetings, pitched ideas without worrying whether someone might think I was too much or too ambitious. I began to mentor 2 younger women on my team, both bright, eager, and brimming with questions. I saw pieces of my younger self in them, and I promised myself I would support them in all the ways I never received support. I joined a pottery class on Saturday mornings. My first few bowls came out lopsided and awkward, but each one felt like a small rebellion against perfection. I learnt to enjoy the process rather than obsess over the outcome. On Sundays, I took long walks by the river, headphones in, letting the city noise blend into a steady hum around me. Sometimes, I'd stop at a small cafe for a croissant and watch people rushing by. Nobody knew me, nobody expected anything from me, and that anonymity felt like a soft blanket around my shoulders. I didn't realize how heavy the weight of constant judgment had been until it was gone. Bit by bit, I rediscovered the small things that made me feel alive. The smell of rain on hot pavement, the warmth of freshly washed sheets, the sparkle of fairy lights strung across my balcony. One morning, as I sipped my coffee and looked out at the city waking up, I realized something. I hadn't thought about them in days. I hadn't wondered if they were okay, or if they had figured out how to fix their mess. I hadn't felt that familiar pang of guilt or the echo of their voices in my head. I was free. Not just free from them, free from the need for their approval, from the gnawing ache of trying to be enough for people who would never see me. And in that quiet freedom, I found a new version of myself. Stronger, softer, a little bruised maybe, but whole in a way I had never been before. If there's one lesson I carry with me now, it's this. Never mistake silence for weakness. For years I stayed quiet. I took their dismissals, their subtle jabs, their outright cruelty, not because I was weak, but because I was building strength in the shadows. Because I knew someday I would walk away, and when I did, I wouldn't look back. We often think kindness means staying, forgiving, bending until we break. But kindness to ourselves is knowing when to leave, when to let go, when to choose our own peace over their comfort. If you're reading this, and you've ever felt unseen, overlooked, or undervalued, I hope you remember this. You are not the sum of someone else's opinion of you. You are not defined by how little they chose to love you. You can build your own story, brick by brick, even if it means starting from nothing. You can choose yourself. I chose me. Now, I spend my days creating a life that feels true to me. I eat dinner at the small bistro down the street when I feel like it. I dance in my living room to music only I can hear. I host quiet dinner parties with friends who see me, really see me, and love me for who I am, not for who I should have been. I don't hate them anymore. Hate takes energy I no longer want to give away. I don't forgive them either. Forgiveness isn't something they earned or even sought. Instead, I simply let them drift away into the past, like a story I once read and no longer need to revisit. I am not the daughter they wanted. I am not the sister they adored. I am not the shadow of Lily, forever waiting for scraps of affection. I am me, and that is finally, deeply, beautifully enough. Today, as I water my herbs and sip my coffee under the soft morning light, I feel a quiet joy settle in my chest. A joy that doesn't shout, a joy that doesn't need to be posted or proven, a joy that belongs to me, and only me. And today, I smiled, not because they lost, but because I found myself.